We're delighted to honor today the most recent of this very exclusive group, Major Cooper, who went furthest in space and did so on the anniversary of Charles Lindbergh's flight to Paris. I think one of the things which warmed us the most during this flight was the realization that however extraordinary computers may be, that we are still ahead of them, and that man is still the most extraordinary computer of all. His judgment, his nerve, and the lessons he can learn from experience still make him unique, and therefore make manned flight necessary, and not merely that of satellites. I hope that we will be encouraged to continue with this program. I know that a good many people say, why go to the moon? Just as many people said to Lindbergh, why go to Paris? Lindbergh said, it's not so much a matter of logic as it is of feeling. I think that the United States has committed itself to this great adventure in the 60s. I think before the end of the 60s we will see a man on the moon, to the moon, an American. And I think in so doing it's not merely that we're interested in making this particular journey, but we are interested in demonstrating a dominance of this new sea and making sure that in this new great adventurous period that the Americans are playing their great role as they have in the past. Most of all, we're very proud of Major Cooper and his family, and we're very proud that our country continues to produce these young men who go so far and carry with them so much.
Another election behind us and campaign acrimony set aside, the again united nation ponders the portents of the 1962 midterm balloting. What did the 50 million voters accomplish? How will the decisions they expressed in the polling booths influence the nation's future? For instance, in view of the Pat Brown defeat in California of Dick Nixon and the latter's elimination as a likely Republican candidate, did the election produce or uncover anyone else to oppose Kennedy in 1964? Well, in New York, the returns point to Governor Nelson Rockefeller continuing as an outstanding hopeful for consideration when the next Republican convention seeks a presidential candidate. And this in spite of the fact that his margin of victory was not as great as expected. Another beam of GOP presidential timber was revealed in the Pennsylvania polling. This was a man whose family gave their name to a city, William W. Scranton, the newly elected governor of the Keystone State. Married, the father of 4 children, and only 2 years in politics, his decisive victory ended 8 years of state Democratic control. Then there's Michigan Governor-elect George Romney. He's thought another emerging contender to head the next Republican national slate. Running for public office for the first time, he gained an upset victory. Yes, the election revealed a passel of possible GOP standard bearers for 1964. own cheerful disposition would discourage it. Grief is abroad in the land over the death of Eleanor Roosevelt. And to her surviving 5 children, the sympathy of the world flows. Preceded in death by her mother-in-law and husband, Mrs. Franklin D. Roosevelt found an outlet for her abounding vitality and achievements for child betterment, the unfortunate, and causes lost and unpopular. It was greatly to her credit, after he was crippled by polio, that Franklin Delano Roosevelt took over the reins of government from Herbert Hoover, that in the White House she became the First Lady of the 32nd President of the United States. The beginning of a career that saw her become a dedicated citizen that caused many to describe her as the First Lady of the world. In the crisis-packed years of World War II, she accompanied her husband on many of his history-making missions, like this one to Quebec to meet the Churchills. She journeyed far and wide during the war to visit U.S. troops, as here in the South Pacific, and her popularity with the GIs was legendary. In April 1945, President Roosevelt died, and she returned for the burial at the Hyde Park, New York, ancestral acres he knew as a child, and to which he brought her as a bride. With widowhood, Mrs. Roosevelt's compassion for people brought her to Israel to encourage the children of the newborn nation. She became a symbol of independence and responsibility, and her efforts on behalf of universal human rights won her many awards overseas and at home. Among these was the coveted 4 Freedoms Award, an honor that recalls FDR's principles that held out new hope to people everywhere. President Truman named her a delegate to the United Nations General Assembly, and that world body became the enthusiasm of her final years. Asked what gave her the most satisfaction in life, she answered,
"Oh, I think serving with the United Nations, because you felt that you were part of the second effort to bring the peoples of the world together in an attempt to create a peaceful atmosphere."
A great American. We shall not soon see her like again.